for someone to go into uncertainty, there needs to be a sense of internal safety.
Indeed.
What does that look like? Like,
first of all, it starts with a simple, I'm worth it. So many of us, I'm having a goosebump moment, you too?
Me
which
too.
speaks to a lot of when you hit on a moment in a conversation. But that's a side story, it's a comment for another day. But yeah, I think a lot of people almost feel like I'm not allowed to have a voice for some reason, whether it's about a sense of I'm not valuable enough, I'm not worthy enough. And I think there's a key part of I'm worth it. So if you can at least stop and say, I won't necessarily have the best ideas or the right ideas or have all the bits and pieces together, because I think sometimes people think, well, if I had all of that, then I would know I was worthy. Then
Waiting
I was
for the
know it's
perfect
valuable.
moment.
Yeah. And it's like, no, if I just said today, I'm worth it, which means that I'm worthy of actually considering my options and recognizing that I'm allowed to have options, and I have options that I never considered before. But also it comes with that sense of, and you mentioned the uncertainty and you mentioned the notion of risks. It's that I'm worth taking a risk on, even for myself. I think for a lot of people, there's a sense of like, well, if I was unworthy, then nobody would kind of try or push the boundaries or, to experiment and explore. Whereas for me, it's like those things can be risky, but you'll be more comfortable with considering that it's a risk if you have a basic sense of I'm worth it.
But those risks reduce when we have this sense of worth.
Indeed.
Because we're going to make decisions based on, you know what, I'm actually okay. I've messed up before and I've been able to resolve it. I've been able to resolve a lot of this stuff myself. These data points, right? Yeah. When things have stuffed up, I've not been yelled at. Someone stepped in and asked me if I needed help and they helped me and I didn't feel embarrassed by that. When we're at that point of I'm worth it, we sometimes need to look for those evidence points. But we're always looking externally.
Yes.
The safety points, the validation external to us to go, well, I'm worth to them, so therefore that must be true. So when we're looking at this sovereignty, looking at reign, looking at having the power over one's own scape, it's about that internalized, I am safe because I've got me.
The sovereignty idea comes that you get to declare some things. You have declarations over my reign. Now, the declarations for the reign of Julie Unlimited will be different than the declarations for Helen Unlimited, and that's perfectly fine. And one of the things in the Self-Unlimited framework is having a conversation about values and value. So one of the things I might declare is these are the things that are the values, and by values I mean the things that you believe, the truths that you hold as the inner truths that guide you. And I know for me, one of my strong values is integrity. And therefore that becomes a bit of a plumb line, and if that's a word people aren't used, I'm a builder's daughter, so it's something in the building trade. But a plumb line is something by which you align things to. So part of that sovereignty is saying, I have some values, I know what they are, and I understand how that might play out in the choices. Now, the fact is people already have these things, but they've never necessarily articulated them or named them and then necessarily used them or applied them. So, yeah, integrity is a value of mine in the sense of values. But it's also, and comes to this point when I said about am I worth it, we could also say I am valuable. So this notion of valuable is something has value. So that's a recognition. There is value that I have, and by here I'm probably better to say value elements. There is value I have. I hold value in the expertise that I have. I hold value in the time that I have. I hold value in the energy that I have. And so then a conversation about that's value that I have that I can use in other things to create value. And one of the notions of employment could be seen as, well, I make this exchange where an employer gives me money, that's valuable, and I give them time and expertise, that's valuable. Well, when you dig into that, for very few people is that the fullness of the value exchange that they actually want. So as a sovereign, it's then about saying, well, the value I want to put in and the value I want to get out is something, and do I know what that is? Because then that can help guide those choices. Now, I'm saying value here, separate from values, as in like value elements, which is something that can be very dynamic and very changing, which comes back to the role of sovereignty, because it's not, oh, I made a decision today, it's this and that will be it for the rest of my life, I'm done.
So there's a dynamic.
Absolutely, yeah. In every situation that I come to, it might be, okay, I know I'm worth it. Okay, what's valuable that I have that I could contribute to something? Do I want to contribute that? Would that make me happy, joyful, whatever? Also, what value do I want this situation to create for myself and for others? And all of that is part of that exercise of power, where you're, as a sovereign, you are saying, this is the declarations that I'm making for the sovereignty of Helen Unlimited. So right now, for me, part of the value, I've just moved to Brisbane. And there's an element where
Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I'm enjoying your tropical weather.
Sorry about that.
Well, it comes to the thing about, well, what I value is actually the opportunity to work with somebody. And we've both agreed that value we want to create for each other is fun and joy.
Mm.
And so as long as there's, and that we came up with a list, there's about 5 or 6, but fun and joy is at the top of the list. So there was an exchange of messages where I was experiencing the torrential rain in the past weekend, like, are you still happy that you made the move? And I'm like, yes, because I'm getting fun and joy. It wasn't about I needed physical safety or that I wanted to actually have an environment that was all, I don't want to say perfect, but all settled and comfortable and whatever. That's not what I've exchanged my life moving from to a new place for. That's not the value I'm wanting to create.